Hello everyone and welcome back to the GMCU Ideas series. In this video I'll be discussing the myths involved in phase 1, which consists of the origin of the universe and the births of some main gods. If you're new to this channel, I recommend going back and watching the previous videos just so you get a bit of a sense of what's going on, what this is about. But it's your choice, just don't blame me if you get confused. Before I start the phase rundown, there's something you got to keep in mind. A lot of these gods and titans are beings as well as personifications of things. It's this fact that makes the whole adaptation 100 times harder. Honestly, it might just be worth skipping the whole creation thing and going straight to where Cronus screws everything up. But yeah, that's once again a thought for another time. I said I'd go through all the myths, so that's what I'm going to do. I guess I'll label as I go whether they're worth keeping in the GMCU or not, whether worth trying to adapt, I don't know, we'll see. In the simplest form possible, Hesiod says chaos appears, then Gaia, then Tartarus. That's what we're told, nothing more than that in terms of logistics. We're sort of taught just to sort of accept things and move on. You can imagine why I said this part would be hard to adapt. Chaos is essentially a chasm from which other beings are produced spontaneously. Gaia is the personification of the earth, the ground beneath your feet. You could think of her as like the original Mother Earth, if that makes sense. Tartarus is more commonly taken as the place especially bad people go to when they die. It's a sort of eternal punishment. We'll definitely get into this for later myths. Sisyphus. Tartarus is rarely referred to as anything other than the place of eternal punishment. Yeah. Chaos also sputtered out a few other beings. There's Eros, the Greek version of Cupid. There's Erebus, which is darkness, and Nux, which is night. It's NYX, Nux. Yeah. Gaia in this section of Greek mythology is really important in terms of understanding a lot of the different species involved in the rest of mythology. Gaia had Uranus or Uranus, however you say it, which is sky. She had him asexually, then had a bunch of children with him. These were the Titans: Pontus, Oceanus, Caius, Creus, Hyperion, Iapetus, Thea, Rhea, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, Tethys, and finally Cronus. Of these titans, Cronus is 100% the most well-known one. Little known fact is, by some accounts, Aphrodite was actually born around the same time frame as the titans. I won't go into too much detail, but it does involve involuntary castration. That's actually a common theme in a lot of these myths. Gaia and Pontus had their fair share of children too, and I'll point out the main ones. There were the Harpies, the Nereids, the Grae, the Gorgons, including our favourite Medusa. From the Nereids, eventually Achilles was born. From Medusa came Pegasus, Cerberus, the Sphinx, and the Hydra. Now again, there is so much more information in these creation myths that I'm telling you, and if you're really interested, I strongly recommend reading up some of them because there's fantastic content out there. But if not, you'll just have to settle for my abridged version. Moving on, it was arguably Cronus and Rhea who eventually had the main gods. These gods were Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Now, Cronus was eventually told by Gaia that his children would overthrow him. It's another very common theme in Greek mythology. So, as his gods were born, as any normal person would do, he swallowed them. He swallowed them whole. But this is where it gets interesting. Rhea was a little sneaky, so when Zeus was born, she swapped him with a rock, and that fooled Cronus. He swallowed the rock thinking it was Zeus, and didn't blink an eye. Not a very smart titan. Zeus then went away for several years and was hidden and protected by some people in a mountain in Crete, which is likely Mount Ida. He then came back and gave Cronus something to make him throw up his siblings, and they lived happily ever after in Olympus. sort of. Obviously, Cronus didn't like this, so he and most other Titans attacked Olympus in the Titanomachy. All of the Titans except Themis and Prometheus fought against the gods. Those two aided the gods. Obviously, the gods won, because if they didn't, then we wouldn't have any of the myths that we have today. The Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus. Again, this is abridged. A lot more went on. The other myths in Phase 1 are essentially just origin stories for the other gods who weren't born before the Titanomachy. These include Hephaestus, Ares, Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, and Athena. They mostly just cover the time between their birth and how they sort of prove themselves to the rest of the gods, if you can say that. Whether or not these would be included in the actual GMCU is still up for debate, as most of them don't really relate to the other stories, they're just sort of there. That being said, I want to get as much content that I have out there, so I'll explain what happens in each of them. But before I do, I'll do a bit of disclosure here. I don't actually know the complete order in which these gods are born. I know like the general gist. I know that some of them are born before others, but there's like a lot of weird things where some of them show up when they shouldn't be alive. If these did show up in the GMCU, there'd have to be a bit of retcon happening, like creative license, things like that. Anyway, here are the births of some gods in somewhat of an order. Yeah. There's Apollo and Artemis. Their parents were Zeus and Leto. When Leto was pregnant, Hera, being Zeus's wife, didn't like it, obviously. She said that she could not give birth on any land that sees the light of day, which is a bit rude. So to be a little sneaky and work around that, Leto found the floating islands of Delos and Ortygia. They sometimes are completely submerged, a bit like Atlantis, I guess. So for some reason they don't count. And sort of bypasses the curse. Apollo was born on Delos, then Artemis on Ortygia. Apollo is the god of the sun, and commonly associated with archery as well, though his arrows are usually just a way of spreading plague. Nice. Artemis is the goddess of the moon, as well as hunting. And some other things, but I won't really get into it. Hermes. Hermes' personality is that of a trickster, not dissimilar to Loki, the one you see in the MCU. That's probably the one most of you will know. Yeah, except it's usually without the evil or selfish intentions. It's mostly just for the sake of it. His parents were Zeus and Maya, a nymph. When only a couple hours old, he had already stolen some cattle from Apollo, among other things. Apollo confronted Hermes after tracking the trail of the cattle. Hermes requested the matter be brought to the gods, after denying that he knew anything, as standard 3-hour-old baby would. They held a mini debate and let Zeus judge who was guilty. Zeus saw right past Hermes' defense. Obviously, he's like a child, not even, he's a baby. But he was impressed by his defense. He ordered that Hermes take Apollo to where the cattle were being held, which he did. There, Hermes revealed his lyre, his instrument thing that he made out of a tortoise, which eventually won Apollo over, as Apollo is also the god of music, or poetry, but they were like pretty much the same thing back then. Hermes is a spirit guide. He's the one who takes dead souls to the underworld. He's usually used in myths as a form of transportation or travel companion, I guess. Next is Ares. Ares was born to Zeus and Hera, one of their few children, despite being married. Zeus has more children outside of marriage than he does inside of it. Man. As a child, he was supposedly captured by giants and held in a jar to be freed later by Hermes. I don't know much more about that than that. Anyway, Ares and Aphrodite also had a sort of relationship, of which came 3 children. Their sons were Phobos, which is panic, and Deimos, which is fear. And their one daughter was Harmonia, harmony. Alright, Hephaestus. He was born around the same time as the Titanomachy. He was born disabled, which was not ideal in the eyes of the gods. so he was exiled. He was eventually brought back by Dionysus after consuming a large quantity of alcohol. He is the blacksmith of the gods, the builder, the inventor, all things practical, very good with his hands. Okay, side note, you may have heard me say Dionysus and gone, hang on, we haven't heard his birth yet, how can we help Hephaestus when he's not even born yet? And yeah, you're right, I have no idea what timeline this myth is on. I don't know how long it goes for, because there is a period between Hephaestus being exiled and Hephaestus returning. I don't know how long that is. During that time, Dionysus is born, has his whole story, does his whole thing, and then he helps Hephaestus back. That's all I've got. I don't know how long it takes. Could be a couple 100 years, could be 2 months, I don't know. If anyone does know, leave it in the comments, please. Athena. Athena is the goddess of intelligence or wisdom. Her birth starts with Zeus going after Metis, the Titan, and impregnating her. However, he was eventually told that a second child would overthrow him, so naturally he ate Metis. There's a lot of that in Greek mythology. He then developed a headache, to which Hermes suggested they split his skull open. He's not a doctor. From his headache, Athena sprung out. Of course. Except she wasn't a baby, she was a full-grown adult wearing battle armor. Yeah, that one's the weirdest. There's another version that cuts out the whole Metis thing and just has Zeus have a headache, then Athena pops out from it. Yeah, we'll decide which one to go with later. So yeah, that's phase 1. It's not particularly exciting, but there's a lot of necessary establishments of characters and locations. It's basically one big block of context. It honestly could be reduced to like a couple sentences at the start of an episode or a movie or whatever, even like a title crawl like they do in Star Wars. Yeah, and don't worry, not all of the phases are like this. From phase 2 onwards, it's all pretty important, exciting, entertaining, all those things. There's a lot of cool stuff. Anyway, that's this video. Thank you for watching. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions, leave them down in the comments. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like. And if you enjoy this concept, there is a big red button at the bottom right of your screen. I encourage you to click it. Yeah, that's that. See you all next time. Bye.